Hello, and welcome to the Real San Diego podcast, where I interview inspiring and interesting people, dive into hot topics from communities around San Diego, and more. I'm your host, Cece Summerfield, and joining me once again is Venus Molina, Chief of Staff for Council Person Jenn Campbell. She'll be filling us in on the Sidewalk vendor ordinance that was just finalized by the City Council. If you live in the coastal areas, you have probably witnessed the impact of the vendors over the last couple years. Have a listen and get the latest developments. This is Cece Summerfield, and I'm here on another episode of Real San Diego podcast. I'm here with Venus Molina today, and she is the Chief of Staff for Council Member
Jennifer Campbell.
Thank you. Oh my goodness, Venus, my apologies. Got up really early this morning, and
okay.
I am just trying to get it all together today.
That's okay. That's okay.
But I really appreciate you joining me today because there's a really important topic we're going to be talking about, and that is the sidewalk vendor ordinance, which has been
my baby.
Been your baby for a long time now, right?
Not that long, actually, but I'd love to.
When did you start in on
So we actually took it over this year. So okay. This has been it's actually gone through two different administrations, but because it's such a complex, and it was a lot of landmines to this.
I can imagine.
So it was very difficult to actually get this done. The previous administration had done a lot of work actually on this, and the staff member was amazing and did a lot of work. And then COVID hit. It went through committee. You know, there was a lot of movement there, and then COVID hit. Right. So they were supposed to bring it, I believe, to council March of 2020. So we all know what happened March of 2020.
Yeah, all hell broke loose. Excuse my language, but
exactly.
Seriously, that's what happened, and a lot of things got put on hold or shoved to the side.
The priorities shifted for the
priorities
city.
Totally shifted. So, so about the sidewalk vending ordinance, the vendor ordinance, if I can say it right. Can you give me a little bit of recap on when that all came about and like?
Yeah, and I think it's important that people know. Everybody says, well, it's lawless and there's just so much out there. And why are they being allowed to just vend everywhere and anywhere? So I think what people don't know is that the state passed a law. It was AB 946, right? I believe it's 2018.
Somewhere around 2018,
Yeah. So in the vendor law at the state level, they protected the vendors and they allowed them to pretty much vend anywhere. They gave them free range and said, you can just go at it, right? And then you, cities and municipalities, it's your job to create your own vendor law that's going to be in line with ours. Yeah. So whatever we did could not supersede, or it could not be in a misstep with the state law.
Right.
So what happened back in 2018 is once the state law came into effect, then the chiefs of police and the police are saying, okay, well, we can't criminalize. We can't really
it seems like their hands were kind of tied at that point.
It pretty much was, because the law specifically says that you cannot criminalize vendors. So police pretty much kind of had to be hands off, and then it just got really out of hand.
Yeah.
So a lot of folks are saying, well, we just saw huge growth, and you know, there's so many vendors. It's so out of control. It was because there was a state law, so it wasn't a local law.
Right.
We didn't have one.
Yeah.
So then what we had to do is pretty much now start our vendor ordinance. And it started, again, started 2018, 2019 is when it actually came to committee. Like I said, come March.
Everything slowed down.
Well, and then
everybody slowed down.
So then what happened is that everything closed down, right? So people weren't at the beaches, people weren't at the parks. Right. So then there was really no reason to kind of bring a vendor ordinance. We had COVID, we had so many other things happening, right?
There was a lot of things happening. I think where it really started affecting us here in Ocean Beach is probably more towards probably the end of 2020 and 2021 when people were getting out there again.
Yes.
And realizing, okay, COVID's here to stay. I don't know what we're going to do about it, but we're going to have to go out and work, you know.
And we want to. We encourage people. So when we started opening up the beaches and parks, we wanted people outside, right? We didn't want them in like a secure space. Right. So we wanted people outside. So of course they were at the beach, they were at our parks. Yeah. And then you started seeing the vendors just really pop up everywhere. Yeah. So 2021 was that year where we just saw it just rise again. So the previous administration, they said, well, we're not going to do anything, right? Because COVID, we're not going to take this on. at this point. So, we'll leave it for the next mayor.
Mm-hmm.
So literally the first meeting that the council member had with Mayor Gloria was sidewalk vending. What are we going to do about this? It's a huge issue in my district.
Mm-hmm.
We need to do something about it.
Sure.
So they started working on it, and they also realized it's a landmine, and it was.
There's just so many facets to it. That's
Exactly.
the problem, and there's people involved, and
Lots of different
you really
people.
have to be careful where you're treading with people.
Yes.
Not only, I mean, from my standpoint, being kind of a small business owner,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as close to the beach, and I'm not retail, thankfully, but I can see both sides.
Yes.
I can see
you
needing
have
to make a living and being on the sidewalk
Yep.
to do that. And I can also see the vendors that have a brick and mortar who are paying for that building specifically and paying a lot of rent, down at the beach. And being
overhead.
really upset with the same type of business being down at the beach.
Exactly.
So
it's a huge mixture of people. And one thing that I think the council member in our office is good at is we call them, the mayor calls them the San Diego specials. So it's the items and topics that people don't want to take on because
Right.
they're so just scary for a lot of folks.
Mm-hmm.
And so the good thing about my boss is she's fearless, right? And so she's, her thought is, I'm older. I'm not running for governor. I'm not running for anything else.
Yeah,
so I can take anything on.
Yeah.
And so we took it on, I believe it was June of last year. June this year. Was it this year?
2022?
2022? No.
I feel like we've been talking
21.
about it for a while.
I know. No, I think it's 20. Jesus, no, it had to be in 2021 because I just got it approved, maybe. June. So we got it done, in about 8 months, 8 to 9 months.
Yeah.
Yep. I believe it was 8 to 9 months. Brought it to council. It was, I worked on this. I took this on.
Yeah, you did. You're a beast on it.
Yes. And I know. And the thing is, it's all about compromise. It's just like with short-term vacation rentals. I learned that you have to compromise to get things done.
You're not going to be able to please everybody all the time.
So I worked with the advocates. It was some were just adamantly opposed, just like with everything.
Sure.
There's just that group that says, we don't want an ordinance. We need an ordinance. You need to leave them the hell alone. Right. I got a lot of that.
Right.
They called us racist. I'm like, really? Like, this isn't racist.
Exactly.
But,
it has nothing to do with race.
No.
It's about trying to be fair and
beach access.
And beach access. And not to be taken advantage of either.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's a lot of people, unfortunately, that are taking advantage of I would say, lawlessness that's happening.
Yeah. There's a lot of fights. There's a lot of stuff happening. And so, there's a lot of, there's a lot of things happening out there that are not safe, not for the vendors. So there's a lot of really good vendors.
Right.
And then there's some
really
bad apples.
Of course, there's always going to be the bad apples.
Absolutely.
And you can't let the one bad apple ruin the bunch, right?
Yes. And that usually happens.
And
that was the crux of it. That was the crux. And so I had an opportunity to work with 2 organizations and two advocates that were representing the vendors. And we sat down and we had to build trust. I had to, I worked with them almost every week on this ordinance. And I said, outreach is important. Education is important to the vendors. I said, this is about bringing them back into the market. This is giving people an opportunity for entrepreneurship, for business.
Yeah, of course.
It's starting maybe with a food cart and then maybe looking to a bigger, better thing, right? I said, this is a pipeline to business, to entrepreneurship. And so they liked that. So there was a lot of things that we went back and forth. And, and I said, I said, this whole idea that we shouldn't have an ordinance is not going to happen. I said, my boss, the community, the mayor, everyone is on us to get this done.
Yeah.
So,
well, we just need some balance. That's the thing. As a community member in the beach area.
Yeah.
And having seen the effect it's had on the beach, it's like, we got to get something going.
Yeah. I said, we need something.
Yeah.
And so we worked back and forth. We had a document that I think we were both happy with. I know some people would have wanted a little, stronger teeth.
Like I said,
but like I said,
please everybody all the time.
Because I think what people have to remember is our districts, like 1 and 2, we're hardcore enforcement. Let's do this.
Right.
I still have to deal with 7 other districts.
Sure, of course.
And other districts that are just like,
we're not affected.
We're not affected, and we need to give people a chance.
Right.
And so they have a different mentality.
Yes.
So I have to sell it to folks to say, look, come to OB, come to the beach areas and see what we're dealing with. I said, because I said, you guys might not see it, but and we had a council member that didn't support it because she said, I've been to the beach. I've seen how bad it is, but I don't think it's a good idea. Right. Only one. So I got an 8-1 vote.
Wow.
Yeah. But and that's what people understand. I have 9 people on there that we have to compromise with. And that was a big sausage making the day of council.
For sure.
People added stuff, took stuff. And what I have to keep reminding people is, apart from compromising, we have to abide by state law. So it has to legally.
That's the bottom line.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
And state law says I cannot criminalize them. They cannot be because of competition. So business competition is not a factor. Is out. So when people are saying you're selling the same thing in front of my shop, that's not I can't. State law
I'm
says.
just going to take a deep breath on that one, because honestly, I have friends that own small businesses, and it's
heartbreaking. I know.
Heartbreaking, and it's really rough.
But that was state law. It's not us.
I understand, and I'm going to say whatever.
Talk to your state legislators.
I think if I with the small business owners that I do know, I probably will suggest that they talk to their state legislators, because that's the only person that's going to be able to change anything.
Yes. And so those are the things. And when people call me, and it breaks my heart, because they're saying, they're selling the hot dogs, right? Or the pizzas, right? Or the shirts right across, just in front of my business for like half the price. Right. And I have an I heard it all, and I get it. And I would tell people, I'm like, I have to abide by state law. And this is the state law saying you can't have, community animus. So community animus, just because the community says, I don't want them here, that's
doesn't mean you can be kicked out. Yeah.
No, competition, not a factor. So
I mean, there's competition right there down at the beach. You got 5 crystal sellers
exactly,
down there. So,
they're
competing against each other.
So my parameters for writing this ordinance was health and safety. We have to protect the health, safety, and beach access and access points.
Yeah,
that's what I had to work with.
Yeah.
So I think what we crafted was pretty damn good. And now it's all about the enforcement. So
let's move on into the enforcement, because that's definitely a hot topic as far as this goes. It's okay, you've made the law now,
but we have to make sure it works.
How is it going to work?
So the good thing, good and bad thing, we had to bifurcate it, because Coastal Commission is involved with anything coastal related. Luckily, we were able to have conversations with them, and they agreed to not review the ordinance. And oh my God, it was
what a nice hoop not to have to jump through.
It's such a big hoop, and people don't understand it. They're just like, why can't you just bypass it? And I'm like, because we can't.
Because we're at the coast.
Yes, and they protect the beach access, right?
Yeah.
So it was a lot of kind of back and forth. Again, a lot of negotiating to finally say, okay, we don't have to see it. Only the bush cart piece, because that's already part of the land development code.
Unless you've dealt with the Coastal Commission on some, building or anything city related, then you don't know. But it is a huge, thing to overcome. It's one of those mountains.
Putting up signs. I think people, putting up signs, locking gates.
Yeah.
Anything that we do in the beach area has to have Coastal Commission approval. Yeah. And
I know there's a reason for it. There's a reason for all the committees that we have, but that one is just one of those in particular that's like.
And because they're so backed up, because it's all the coast, it's all the state.
Yeah.
It's a state coastal commission. So if we had to wait, they had already said we'd have to wait a year just to get it docketed. So our communities would have to wait a year. And so this probably wouldn't have gone into effect in the coastal area until 2024.
Wow.
And
that's just too late for us. We've been crying. I'm part of boards, as you know, and we've been crying about this for a while.
I know.
And just again, being a community member here at the beach, I've seen the effects, and unfortunately, there are those bad apples that just ruin it for everybody. So
that was a great news that we were able to get Coastal Commission to bypass it.
Yeah.
So then we just brought it back a couple months ago for approval, and so all we did is change the language that at the end that says, coastal enforcement will be, upon Coastal Commission approval. So I had to just change that and say Coastal Commission enforcement will be
And then it had to still go through the council.
Yeah.
And that's where you got the 8-1 vote.
No, this one I got it.
This
one I got
unanimous.
Unanimous
Okay.
because it was just that change.
Okay.
So it was unanimous. The council just approved the second reading on Tuesday.
Yay.
So then the mayor signs it this week. He's in town now, so he'll sign it either today or tomorrow, and then it'll go into effect 30 days after that.
Okay.
So I'm saying first week of January.
Pretty much. Yeah.
So whichever day he signs, so it's 8th or 9th, right? It'll be 30 days from that, because there has to be a window for anybody to, bash it.
Yeah. Well, as always, that's how things go.
So usually we usually do great, but I do want to talk about the plans, and this is where people can actually help, especially businesses.
Yeah.
We're going to put a little cheat sheet together, so to give to the businesses, so that if they do have a situation where they have a vendor that's blocking or in the right of way, they can have a little cheat sheet from us that states, here's the rules, and here's where you get a permit, and here's questions, and
you can hand it
to them. Say, here are the rules, and that way they don't have to get out there, they don't have to bicker. It's like, here are the rules. The other thing that we learned from enforcement in the Gaslamp Quarter is that, again, we have some bad apples, and police needs to be involved.
Yeah.
And so now we've had because it was park rangers and code compliance officers. We are going to have a lot of the park rangers at the beach and the parks, because that's pretty much what we have. But police will be involved now with the enforcement.
That's a blessing.
It is a blessing.
Because the poor park rangers, they're not equipped to handle
and neither are code compliance officers.
Especially with the bad apples we're talking about. They can be aggressive.
Yep, they have been. And so we've seen that at the Gaslamp.
Yeah.
We had some incidents with some bad apples. And so police is now involved. And so now police is part of the enforcement policy.
So what happens? Say if somebody, do they give them a citation? Do they arrest them for being?
They can impound their stuff too.
Okay.
So we have in our enforcement policies, there's 4 different kind of stages. The first one was administrative, but that's if it's mild, like, hey, you don't have your hand sanitizer, just minor stuff. But if it's egregious enough, they can impound your things. Or if it's criminal, you can get arrested, right?
Yeah.
And we've seen some of that, right?
Yeah,
People selling drugs, people doing all of that.
So some interesting stuff being sold.
Yeah, of course. We had hot dogs and weed, it's like, I think there was an OB somewhere, but Quaaludes, you name it.
Quaaludes?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yep. That's one of the things somebody reported to my boss.
How bold is that?
Yep.
That's just nuts to me.
Yep. So we've heard it all. And that's why I think when we start the enforcement in the beach community, we want to start strong.
Yeah.
We have to start strong. We're going to start strong with police presence and our rangers.
Great.
Because
so glad to hear
we
that.
need to make sure that people take this serious and people know that we're not going to just, let this go.
Yeah.
We're going to come in strong, and we're going to make a statement, at least for the first couple of months, to say, you cannot get away with this. And that's where police is going to, and I really wanted the public to know that, because we're, I want them to know that that's what we're working on.
Well, it's just, because of the experience over the last couple of years, I think people are just kind of like, yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, COVID.
We want the kudos when it does get cleaned up.
Right. And I'm ready to see it, honestly, because it's been a little rough, and it's been rough on all of us. COVID was not really kind to anybody, and our poor little beach area. It's just kind of a disaster, I'll be honest. And I've lived here for over 20 years, and so I've seen it go through its changes. And it's really good to see some positive improvement happening, and hopefully a cleanup, per se.
I know. And one thing that it's interesting, because I had a lot from Balboa Park on me about it too.
Oh, I bet.
So I got the Padres, Balboa Park. You name it. Everybody was on me about getting this done. So it wasn't just our communities, but everybody. I had a letter from the president of the Padres getting on me because there was a fire right outside of their Petco Park with one of the vendors.
Speaking of fires, locally, and Starbucks has never been like a great love of anybody in Ocean Beach, because
it takes away from
it. But anyways, I was in there this morning. I'll be honest, I know I'm a local, and I went into Starbucks.
It's okay.
Several times.
We have to spread the wealth.
They've actually been a very good community member with us, and as far as businesses go. And unfortunately, they're shutting down because
I do get a call.
They cannot they can't operate safely in that location.
Yeah.
And the girls behind the counter told me that a couple months ago, somebody started a fire in the bathroom.
Jesus Christ.
And I'm like, what gives? I mean, people.
It's just ridiculous.
People are going nuts.
Yeah.
What is going on here?
They are. And it
is just nuts.
Yeah. Their government relations person called me and, and said that, they were going to go out to the community and stuff. And it breaks my heart because, I mean, gosh, I wish there was so much more we can do. It's like
But you guys' hands have been, honestly, I mean, especially the police force, their hands have been tied over the last couple of years. There really has been a lot going on, and there's nothing they can do to handle it.
And I want some, and then we can get into this whole because we can talk about this forever.
Oh, but I know.
One
Sorry,
thing but it goes in. When it comes to enforcement, it's with anything. Yeah. We really need police out there.
Yeah.
And again, we're short staffed, but that's not even some of the major concerns. I mean, we're going to have to deploy really strong because people need to get the message when it comes to vending. But on the flip side, when it comes to stuff like fires and just
in
people
a business,
homelessness attacks, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I think what people don't understand, it's that a lot of the hands that tie us, it's not city, it's not the police, it's not the mayor, it's not us, it's the courts. So I don't know if people know that a lot of homeless advocates sue the city.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm actually, I honestly didn't know.
Yeah. They sue us.
I'm ignorant to that.
No. And we get a list log of all the lawsuits. And they sue us to protect homeless. And so there's things that we can and cannot do.
That seems so counterproductive.
It is.
Like, are these same advocates trying to get them off the street, or are they just respecting their homelessness?
That's a lot of the conversations that we have.
Yeah.
When it comes to homelessness, I mean, it's and I think the mayor talked about this one time because they're saying we're putting them in inhumane conditions. I'm like, living in the street is inhumane.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
Defecating in front of somebody's home is inhumane for everyone.
Yeah.
And it's not right.
It's a safety issue too.
It's a safety issue.
Health and safety issue.
Exactly. And so we get a lot of lawsuits that tie our hands and tie the police's hands on how much they can do. And I think that's something that people don't understand.
Yeah, we don't. I mean,
they blame us.
You guys are the easiest ones to blame.
Yeah, of course. And we're the easy targets. But a lot of people look at a lot of the lawsuits, and each one of the lawsuits ties a specific piece of our enforcement when it comes to homelessness. So
I don't suppose that's like public information where you can
I think.
Oh, really?
I think so. A lot of this stuff is public.
It'd just be interesting to see and see what you guys are dealing with.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know.
Good nighttime reading,
Yeah, very good nighttime reading. There's a lot of homelessness. One that I'm very familiar with is our vehicle habitation. We worked on that ordinance.
Yes. How's that?
So we were sued.
Sorry, we're getting away from the vending ordinance, but this is like seriously important too because this kind of came about the same time as the vending ordinance or the vendor ordinance came
so
about.
we worked on that one too. That was ours. And like I said, we take all the special stuff, right?
Oh, it's special, right?
So it was a big issue here in the district, and so we took that on. We got it passed. My boss got so much hate for it. I can't tell you how much hate because they said that she was very inhumane and how dare she. And, but this is where I pleaded to the community. I said, you guys need to help us because you need to let the other council members know what you are dealing with. So I remember like other council offices had 200-300 emails like a week, if not almost a week daily from people saying, this is my yard. This is the beach. This is the way to school. Like, this is what we're dealing with. We don't know they're predators. We don't know.
Anything
we don't
about
know
them.
anything. And
they're taking advantage of the law.
Exactly.
For the most part. There is people that are hurting out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there is a level of people that are just doing it because
again,
they can't.
bad apples, right? Yeah. And so we wanted to protect the people and help the people that, are living in their cars. So we were sued literally the next week after it passed. And so police couldn't enforce it. So they have to do this like progressive enforcement where they'd have to knock on the door. There's all of these things that they have to do until the lawsuit is. So the judge said the ruling is that Well, you can't tell them to move unless you guys provide a space for them to go to. So until you have a space for them, and that's why we started opening all of those safe parking spaces, because the more that we open, now we can say, you have a place to go and you have to go. So that's why we started opening them. That's why JFS, we extended the hours. That's why we're we're trying to get them as everywhere. So now they don't have an excuse, and we can go back to the judge and say, look, we've opened so many lots, so many spaces. Yeah. Can we now enforce this? Yeah. So that's where we're at right now.
Yay. And maybe that will start deterring the people who use the law as, oh, well, I can live out of my car and I can be what we have.
Van lifers?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Phrase van lifers.
Yeah.
And that's all well and good to be all free and easy.
It's fine, but
please, for us that live in the beach,
be mindful.
Be mindful. Respect the beach.
Yeah.
Leave it how you found it.
Yes.
Or
don't
in
throw
better
all
condition. Please don't throw all your stuff all over the place.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, don't be entitled, I guess, is what I'm saying, because that's what it's felt like.
Yeah.
That there's a sense of entitlement, like, I don't owe anybody anything. And
I
can
don't
leave
care.
all my trash here, and I don't give a crap.
And I don't care about anybody else.
I don't care about our community. If you want to be one of our community members, great. All for it.
Come
be one
absolutely.
Of our community members, but be a good community member.
And respect. And just respect your
respect your surroundings.
And respect your neighbors. I mean,
neighbors.
defecating in somebody's yard, camping.
How would you like it if it was your yard? I mean,
it is, they don't care.
They don't care. And I'm just like,
and that's not everybody, because we have, unfortunately, families, people that have
hurting,
and we get that. Yes. And that's why we try to send them to these places, because they do get the help. They have wraparound services there. Yes. We try to get people housed. Super important. And the people that really want the help will go and we'll get it. And we've been full. I mean, we've been full. And so obviously we want to open more, but that's what's going to help with the litigation.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, I'm so happy to hear that. It's such a positive it's been. So now that you've got all this stuff in play and in motion, what project is next for you?
My God. I don't want to do anything for the next year.
Do you want a vacation now?
I do. I want to take a vacation. I told the boss and the mayor, I'm like, let's not take on any big issues.
Oh, yeah.
I think what we want to do is, we had 2 years of COVID that really took us out, of the community. Yeah. And we were very blessed and grateful that we were reelected again. So I think this year we'd love to really be out in the community a lot more.
I think that's a great idea.
And we want to be out. We want to be able to have our first year we used to have Java with Jen. So we had, we would have her at little coffee shops once a month at every different community, and it was open office hours for people to come by. Yeah. And I love that, because people have a chance to talk to her. They didn't have to go downtown. But we had to stop that, all of that constituent and out interaction, we really stopped. And then, the boss is very high risk when it comes to her respiratory issues, so COVID. So we kept her
wrapped up.
We just in a bubble,
Yeah,
yep.
Exactly.
And when she got COVID, she got really sick.
Yeah.
So
did I. I felt for it. It was bad.
Yeah. Did you go to the Monarch Center? To the Mark Center?
No, I didn't. I mean, I stayed home. I was able to stay home. It was just a really bad flu, and it took a good month to feel kind of back to normal. And I actually still feel like I'm suffering some long COVID symptoms.
Same.
So
the fuzzy brain stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bad. I don't think I've got my brain back yet. And then just feeling tired and fatigued.
Yeah. Yeah. So, absolutely.
Actually,
I joined that club too.
So, yeah. So I actually just talked to my doctor. I'm like, can we just see if this is actually a diagnosis, like a long COVID, so I can figure out what to do about it?
Yeah.
If there's something I can do about it, because it's just.
Well, if they tell you, let me know, because it's there's a couple
they kind of are pretty vague on it. They're like, we don't know really.
Because they really don't know.
They really don't know. There's not enough studying on it yet to know what the length of time, if it's ever going to go, all the things. Yeah. So I'm just trying to stay healthy and take my vitamins and do my thing.
And I think that's that's our goal next year is it's really to be out there a lot more, get to do all the fun stuff that we missed out in 2 years. Exactly. And so kind of reconnecting back, I call it back to basics. Yeah. So just back to, the basics.
Yeah. And that sounds awesome. And it kind of probably lets you exhale a little bit and breathe a little bit. Cause it's been such
the fun part.
tension thing from this, but what an accomplishment to get that done. I mean, thank you so much for that, and really working on that for everybody's benefit.
The short-term rental.
Yes, we did both things, because three things, of the sidewalk vendor ordinance, the van, I don't want to call it the van life project, but the living in your car situation,
vehicle habitation. We took that one. We took on scooters too at the beginning.
Scooters.
We did scooters at the beginning.
I remember that.
So
and that kind of went by the wayside when everything else came through. It was
we took that. That was one of the first things. So we've taken on all of the big ones. Yeah. And so I think this time, we can take a little break from the big policies. Yeah. And I'd really love to go back to the basics and do the community, the constituent stuff, which is the fun stuff, right?
Yeah, right. That's exactly stuff. That's who you're working for. That's who your voice is for. Is the people out here.
Yep.
So
but there was some big things that needed to get done,
and thank God they are. I mean,
and now we can
you can relax a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and just one final word on the sidewalk vendor ordinance. I mean, this is a set in stone thing, or is there going to be some kind of review about a year from now?
So every policy that we write, we want to do an annual review because we have to see what works, what doesn't, right? So,
makes sense.
The short-term vacation rental ordinance. Annual review. We have to see what works, what doesn't. And I mean, our stuff is good, but it's not perfect, and we know that. But we try to anticipate every possible issue. Like you're working on everything, you try to anticipate everything that could possibly go wrong.
Right.
Everything, and then obviously once it's implemented, then you're like, oh well, I didn't think that one through, or I missed that. But so that's why we have annual reviews. Yeah. So annual reviews for everything.
Awesome.
And then, this is a great input for the community to have to say, you know what, this didn't really work. This works. And so, in a year we can really fine tune this.
Yeah. Great. Well, I think it's a great start. And thank you so much again for coming in and talking to me today. And,
of course.
I hope you have a Merry Christmas. We're coming up
you too. Yes. Thank you.
All the holidays.
I know.
You got parties to go to. I
know. I love it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. And catch me next time on the next episode of Real San Diego.